What is the most believable supernatural creature? Kraken. If giant squids can exist, unphotographed until 2004 even, why not one that's just a little more bigger as well? My completely unverified thought has always been the Kraken was just a sailor's tale after the extremely rare giant squid sighting had to have happened a few times over the centuries, right? Unicorn equals horse plus rhinoceros like horn. I mean, what's more believable? A horse with a horn, or whatever the hell a platypus is? Platypuses are also bioluminescent. Any of the deep sea ones. When I was 12 I believed that giant sea serpents existed, like ones the size of cars. I asked teachers and tour guides where I could see them, and they all humored me instead of telling me they don't exist. Why do they put them on maps? Sea serpents the size of cars? You're looking for a fish, my friend. The hidden behind. A creature which literally hides behind things whenever humans try to look directly at it. It lives in the woods and mostly subsists on lumberjacks. Ever wonder why you don't see lumberjacks around anymore? Blame some well-fed hidden behinds. Isn't this from Gravity Falls? I believe you're thinking of the America Owl. Totally different cryptid. I can confirm banshees exist. My mother is one. I've met a succubus or two in my time as well. That at least one ancient extinct creature, not the megalodon, still exists somewhere. I bet in some extremely isolated rainforest there's a little feathered dinosaur gliding between the trees. There's lots of them. Actually, we call them birds. Ogres. Gorillas were officially discovered the same year as Tyrannosaurus rex. Until then all the Western world knew of them were stories of African ogres, and most people dismissed them as myth. Really interesting. Now well, should we tell him about the weird phase we all went through on here like 10 years ago where we convinced ourselves we were obsessed with narwhals and bacon? What even was that? Dragons. Maybe not lizard ones, but something that big isn't impossible. Giant lizards aren't anything out of normal in the times when dinosaurs roamed the earth. Flying lizard wouldn't be any oddity when we have flying dogs called bats. And considering how huge those flying dinosaurs were, a flying dragon is believable. And then there's the matter of them breathing fire. Let's imagine you can spit sulfuric acid, similar how some animals can spit poison and whatnot. Then let's imagine your mouth has another spit channel that produces potassium chloride. When those two spit lines connect and react together, they burst into flames. And I mean, if you wouldn't be familiar with electric eels, and I tell you we have fish snakes that can produce 240 volts of electricity, more than your car battery can give, you'd probably laugh at me for making such fantasy stories. By everything nature has presented us so far, I wouldn't even blink if fire-breathing car-sized dragon would land on my roof tomorrow. Wendigus. Forests got some spooky stuff in them for sure. I can't do it. Recently moved to the foothills of the Appalachians and am already paranoid that I'm going to get knocked down the hill behind the house by a herd of deer when I'm doing laundry at night. I don't need spooky added into the mix as well lol. Deer aren't just prey. They are also predators. What else explains stupid deer walking up to your house? They also stalk the roads in wait. I don't know if he counts as supernatural, but Bigfoot. EHHIDK man, I feel like that's one of the more skeptical ones in my opinion. I think that the lore of Bigfoot is bullshit, but I could maybe be sold on a race of people sort of half-stepped between Neanderthals and Homo sapiens fucking around somewhere. Probably not Florida though. Loch Ness Monster. I read this article talking about how scientists tested the water in the lake and found a high number of eels, so they think Nessie could just be a huge eel. There are also these things called oarfish that look like a massive eel, but they like cruise around upright. Really spooky looking, but Nessie was the first thing I thought when I saw it. Well, the second thing. The first was oh god, don't touch it. Abominable snowmen. Hang with me. A cold weather ape. Humans are a cold weather ape. We are abominable snowmen. I read a story about some people that escaped the Gulags back in World War II. They crossed the Himalayas and claimed they seen a few of them on the side of a mountain. It was odd that they threw that in there among the other hardships they faced. If the platypus is real, anything is possible. Mermaids. They wouldn't be the first mammal that adapts to sea life. Dwarves. I've seen a few. They insist they're little people and it'll call the cops, but I'm not fooled. Mothman. It's just a harpy eagle feeling frisky. In my old house a lot of really weird things happened. And some of the weird things I heard as a child was walking on the roof. Like actual footsteps with weight to them. Many years later my mother told me she saw what she believed to be Mothman multiple times around our house. She saw a man with wings squatting in the tree late at night when she came home from work and stayed in her car for hours because she was too scared to get out. So I truly believe Mothman is real because of this. Unicorns. A horse with a birth defect causing a bone to protrude from the top of the head isn't far from reality. A god or gods of some sort. Personally I'd want the Greek gods. Those guys were just coconuts. TBH, the Greek gods were as rad as hell. They weren't morally perfect, but then again, they didn't pretend to be either. Bigfoot unicorns. If you remove the magic part, and basically any sea monster that isn't magical, I'm imagining Bigfoot with a beautiful white horn. Or maybe an ugly, hairy, stinky horse. Unless you meant to use a few commas. Yeah, I forgot to use commas. But a Bigfoot unicorn does sound majestic. The basilisk. Da Vinci had instructions on how to breed one in his journal. Was it a mistaken identity or something else? Nah, a boy named Harry killed the last one. Bigfoot. If he had intelligence, a good sense of smell, and a desire to avoid humans, I have no doubt an animal like that could avoid detection forever. Thunderbird. Years ago I had a boyfriend that was very down to earth. Not one for believing in that kind of stuff and certainly not one for embellishing stories. He told me he was driving home with a friend late one night and an enormous bird, or what looked like a bird, flew in front of their car. He says they were both so scared they got to their destination and ran into the house. This was in Arizona, probably early 2000s. Demons. It's not as far-fetched as it sounds to think of intrusive thoughts and the like as coming from some sort of nasty being whispering in your mind. I'm not superstitious, but I think there's a connection with a spiritual world that people have forgotten how to access, outside of experiences like using hardcore psychedelics. Giants. Not building-sized humanoids, but I can see very tall humans inspiring folklore. As rare as it is, people did grow to be over 7 feet tall, with the tallest man in history being just shy of 9 feet, back when average height was about 5 feet 4. I imagine someone like that seems too tall to be human. Shadow Man. I mean, we all have shadows, so why not? Jinns. They are in many cultures and are also known as the clockwork elves or even demons. Also supposedly Harlot the Luminity types were biologically, probably Bigfoot. Most mythical creatures don't really make sense. How could a skeleton support wings and 4 limbs on a dragon? For example, Bigfoot is just a large furry version of a human. In the same way that a mammoth is a furry weak elephant. Not exactly supernatural, but up until a few months ago I thought jackalopes were legitimate animals. I'm 25. Well, I'm Catholic and we technically believe in ghosts. We believe in souls from purgatory that can come back to earth and ask for prayers from the living to help them get to heaven. Obviously we don't believe this happens to most people, but there's been accounts of it. Pretty interesting. But I think, if I ever encountered something like that, I'd run screaming. XD. Cthulhu. So tall you can't see the top of him, and so wide you can't see his sides. You don't know where he begins or ends. It drives you insane at the sheer sight of him. In madness you dwell. The good angel on your shoulder, and the devil on the other. Angels. They are real, and exist all around us. Other spirits too. Are you a Christian on Reddit? Or do you just believe in angels for no reason? Not religious, I just believe in angels. 4 reasons. The Kraken and therefore any unknown magical sea monster, I guess, because we haven't explored the sea properly. Phoenix. Literally just a bird that's on fire. Vampires. A supernaturally evil parasite living off of the blood of working people. Landlords. Billionaires. Nestle. Weapons manufacturers. The United States prison slave industry. EA. Monarchs. Televangelists. Vampires basically already exist. Vampires might be a real thing, but not handsome creatures that can live without blood. If vampires really exist, then they will be zombie-like creatures that get up from their grave and drink blood. But if vampires exist in the form of movies, you have probably seen one in action, but it controlled your mind to forget it. A beaver with a duck bill can make omelets and can wear a fedora. Mermaids. We don't know what's in most of the ocean. It could very well be that mermaids are living in the dark depths. Maybe not the most, but werewolves. Clinical lycanthropy exists. So do conditions of madness and insanity. Please click subscribe if you enjoyed this video.